Distant explosions and alarms echoed throughout the torus shape of 𝕕𝕤𝕤. There was never going to be enough resistance to trouble the Decepticons. That was part of why they had chosen this time and place for their first overt act of revolution. Starscream reached the evacuated Great Hall without encountering any resistance. The only motion in the hall was the comedian, whose poor jokes had mercifully been cut off by the attack. He rumbled back and forth on the stage, targeting random fixtures in a fury. When he spotted Starscream, he locked in with a shoulder-mounted rocket launcher. Starscream had neither the time nor the inclination to fight. He assumed alt form and thundered away, the comedian's rockets exploding silently in his wake. He had a meeting to attend, far down below and all the way across the planet in the Badlands, and if the burning of 𝕕𝕤𝕤 was any indication of the way the future was going to go, he didn't want to be late. There were some decisions to finalize, and Starscream had some plans of his own to set in motion. Megatron was not the only Cybertronian with a vision of what Cybertron could be. By the end of the invaders' proclamation in the Great Hall, no sound could be heard, save the distant alarms whose vibrations carried up through the floor in Armorhide's feet. He looked around, hanging on to one of the stanchions supporting the stage lights. An invasion of 𝕕𝕤𝕤? And it started here, during his show? Not funny. Everyone evacuated the hall in a blaze of panicked defensive firing as the invaders pressed in, ignoring Armorhide completely. This wasn't funny, either. It took only a few cycles. The invaders blasted through one of the interior walls, their goal clearly to destabilize the station. Armorhide, like most permanent residents of and frequent visitors to 𝕕𝕤𝕤, had a sensor array specifically retrofitted to handle continual and drastic shifts in pressure and temperature. As his sensors recalibrated themselves now, he watched the last of his audience disappear. Sentinel Prime was one of the last out of the main doors into the station's interior, shepherded by the menacing figure of his guard, who had not laughed at a single joke in Armorhide's routine. Something unusual was going on here. Unusual even beyond the fact of a splinter cell of renegade Cybertronians attacking and killing other Cybertronians. The whole scenario had an air of planning about it, as if there had been something specific about 𝕕𝕤𝕤 and about the Great Hall that had made them targets. Armorhide was just a comedian. He never wanted to think about politics. But this was a time when all Cybertronians needed to confront what needed to be confronted. Who could he tell? There were no guards at the hole in the outside wall. Not all of the Decepticons, was that what they had called themselves, had been seekers. They must have come in some kind of vehicle. Keeping an eye out for their possible return, Armorhide went to the hole and stuck his head out into the void of space. On his left, he saw stars and little pieces of the station floating away. Down below, he saw the signs of war in the torus states, centered in 𝕕𝕤𝕤 proper. Explosions bloomed, and the contrails of seekers crisscrossed the skies over the city. On his right, he saw a short-range, surface-to-low orbit vehicle magnetically tethered to the station. "Perfect," Armorhide said, even though there was no one there to hear. And even if there had been, they wouldn't have because of the vacuum, and if there had been someone there, he wouldn't have said anything, because he didn't want other Cybertronians thinking that he talked to himself. Except, "Get on the ship, idiot," he told himself. And he did. Someone in Iacon needed to hear about this. If he could get through the chaos on the ground in the torus states first. The Badlands stretched endlessly around Megatron and Starscream as they met face to face for the first time. "The operation at 𝕕𝕤𝕤 went well," Megatron said. "You played your part perfectly." "It was an easy part to play. I have been close to Sentinel Prime in a protective capacity for some time." Starscream wished they could see 𝕕𝕤𝕤 from the Badlands, but the only near-Cybertron objects in view were the moon bases and the shimmering string of the single space bridge that still remained. No one knew where it led, or whether it still worked. Perhaps no one would ever find out. Although Starscream wanted to, he wanted to lead the Cybertronians out into the universe again. And perhaps leading the Decepticons would be the first step toward that. The first step toward leading the Decepticons, of course, was to ensure an alliance with Megatron, and to make sure that this alliance was on the best terms possible. Starscream had gone along with the plan to remove Sentinel Prime because it put him in a position to bargain. The final nature of that bargain was yet to be determined. Megatron saw him looking up toward the sky. "Altihex is ours. Now every Cybertronian knows that the Decepticons are a force to be reckoned with, and that our opposition is weak, disorganized, and unwilling to resist," he said. "When the new history of Cybertron is written, I am the one who will write it. What part do you want to play?" "You cannot threaten me, Megatron," Starscream said. "If you want a war, you might get it. But if you want to win a war, you're going to need me and my forces. The Council will deploy plenty of air power, and right now, you've got a bunch of gladiators who don't know any more about high-altitude combat than they do about the chemistry of star formation." "A standoff, then," Megatron said. "Fair enough. I can leave now and you can make your choice. But I warn you, the next time we see each other, the offer may not be the same." "What I will do is go to Trypticon Station," Starscream said. "Trypticon?" Megatron said. "And what will you do when you get there?" "You don't know, do you?" Starscream was delighted. As long as he knew something Megatron didn't, he could keep angling for the best position, and ultimately the shortest route to leading the Decepticons himself. "Protected," he said. "There is much at Trypticon that would be dangerous for Cybertron if it fell into the wrong hands." Megatron faced up to Starscream. They locked optics, neither backing down, but Starscream knew this was pure bravado on Megatron's part. Still, he played along with a necessary charade. "And you suggest that my hands are the wrong ones?" Megatron said. "I suggest," Starscream said, "that Cybertron needs change, but that it does not need annihilation. I will watch over Trypticon to make sure that one does not lead to the other." Megatron looked for a moment as if he would fight. Some of his armament systems flickered, but he held himself back. "I will ask you plainly," he said, when he had regained his temper. "Starscream, are you with us?" "I'm not against you, Megatron," Starscream answered. "I don't think I'll say any more than that. The Council might yet be listening." "Still hedging your bets. That's a good way to lose no matter what happens. The High Council would never imagine that a low-caste gladiator could have any ambition beyond the next battle." Megatron scoffed. "Holding a grudge still?" Starscream shook his head. "Megatron, if you are going to fight, you must fight with a clear head. Most Cybertronians, even the ones who disagree with you, don't care one way or another about the caste system. Would you set them against you because they don't share your obsession?" "I would set the universe against me if it meant the lines were clear," Megatron said. "Beware, Starscream, that you do not find yourself on the wrong side of that line." He backflipped into the air, assuming alt form in the same maneuver and thundering away. Starscream watched him go. Then he composed a message to all seekers he knew he could trust. "Rendezvous at Trypticon immediately." Puzzled, Megatron read the intercepted message. Trypticon, the pile of semi-sentient junk? What could be up there that Starscream thought was so valuable that he would rather sit on it than take part in the war for Cybertron? It was time for some research, and for that, Megatron thought, he was going to need the librarian.